Dear students, in the previous lecture we have seen that a sentence is composed of a basic structure called subject plus predicate. This is also called as a clause. The structure that is a subject plus predicate is also called as a clause. One clause is equal to one sentence. That means in a sentence there should be minimum one clause. One clause is essential in a sentence. Minimum one clause. This is minimum one clause. If there is a minimum one clause, then it becomes a sentence. Okay? That means if there is a subject plus predicate structure, a single subject and a single predicate structure, this becomes a clause, and at least one clause is required to form a sentence. What I said here, at least one clause. At least one clause means at least. Without a one clause, we cannot form a sentence. We cannot form a sentence. That means in order to form a sentence, one clause is essential, and that one clause should be a structure of subject plus predicate. Means subject plus predicate. A subject plus one verb and other essential things, subject such as object or anything else. So, going further, we'll see that a simple sentence is of a single clause. A simple sentence is of a single clause, one clause. But there can be many clauses, more than one clause. Sentences. One clause sentence, simple sentence. More clause sentence, compound or complex sentence. Okay. One clause sentence means, okay, I'll repeat here once again. One subject plus one predicate. This forms a one clause. This forms one clause. And to form a sentence, we require at least one clause. That means from one clause we can form a sentence. So this is the structure, subject plus predicate. Now we'll take a single example. We'll take a single example as we have taken earlier. Okay, similar to that, Rakesh is my friend is my friend. Okay, in this sentence there is Rakesh is subject and is verb, my friend is complement. Okay, this is subject and the remaining including verb, the remaining portion is called as predicate. Okay, I am repeating this again and again because many students they find it difficult to understand what is a predicate. Predicate means everything including a verb except subject. Subject is considered separately every time. Okay, this is a simple structure. Subject plus predicate, this is a simple structure. This simple structure, in other words, is called as clause. Okay, this simple structure of subject plus predicate, subject plus predicate, this simple structure is called as clause. Okay, and the next stage, what is the next stage? A single clause, at least one clause, instead of saying one single clause, one clause is required to form a sentence. Understood? Subject plus predicate structure is called as clause, and at least one clause, is called as sentence. Because in a sentence there can be more than one clauses. In a sentence there can be more than one clause, that means there can be more than one structure of subject plus predicate. That means more than one clause. We have seen the example of Puneet buying a car and he is selling the car to his neighbor. In this example, there are two such structures of subject and predicate. That means there are two clauses. These two clauses, they are combined together to form one single sentence. These two clauses are combined together to form a single sentence. When there are two clauses, a clause plus another clause also forms one sentence. That means in this clause there is subject plus predicate, and in this clause there is subject plus predicate structure. So such two structures, that means such two clauses may be combined together to form one sentence. If this structure is a single sentence and if this structure is a single sentence, so we combine here two sentences to form one sentence. Example is there. We'll take the example. Okay. We should not have cleared the page. Okay. everything will go then. Suppose there is one sentence. There is one sentence. He bought a car. This is one sentence. This is one sentence means this is subject plus predicate structure. That means this is a clause. And there is another sentence. He sold that car. This is the another subject and predicate. That means this is also one clause. These are two different clauses, and here we have given full stop, means this clause is closed and this has formed a sentence. And here also, he sold that car. In this we have given full stop, means clause is closed, it has formed a sentence. Okay, so these are two different sentences. Now we can combine these two sentences to form a single sentence. So this is, as there is one subject, one predicate, one subject, one predicate. These are singular clause sentences, single clause sentences. This is a single clause and this is another single clause. So these are one clause sentence. This is one clause sentence. That's why these are simple sentences. These are simple sentences. Now we can combine both the sentences together. To form a compound sentence. I am repeating it again and again because the idea should be clear to you. Okay, what is a clause? What is sentence element? Now, he bought a car. He sold that car. Okay, these are two different sentences. This is subject, this is subject, the remaining is predicate. This is subject, the remaining is predicate. Okay, as there is one subject, as there is only one subject and only one predicate, this is a one clause. This is one clause sentence. Okay, same here. There is only one subject and only one predicate. This is also one clause subject, one clause sentence. Now we can combine these two sentences together to form one single sentence. He bought a car and he sold that car. Full stop. By removing the full stop from here, we placed and. This becomes one single sentence. This is one single sentence. Okay, this becomes one single sentence. He bought a car and he sold that car. In this sentence, this is one clause and this is the other clause. So there are two clauses in this sentence. 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 clause, 1 clause plus second clause is equal to one sentence. Okay, one sentence. So in this one sentence there are two different clauses. There are two different clauses, means there are two different structures of subject plus predicate, subject plus predicate, and these structures are different clauses, but we have formed one different sentence out of this, and such a sentence that combines two clauses is called a compound sentence. A compound sentence. Okay. Now, I have repeated all these things. We will come to the main point of today's lecture. What is the principal main point of this today's lecture? Now we come to the principal point of the lecture and the principal point of the topic. This is the clause element topic. Okay, clause elements. Earlier also we have seen what are the clause elements. In a sentence there might be one or more clauses. In a sentence there can be one or more clauses. In each clause there can be maximum 5 elements and minimum 2 elements. A sentence, as I told you, a sentence cannot be formed without subject. A sentence cannot be formed without verb, but a sentence can be formed without object, without complement, and without adverbial. Okay, but these are the two minimum requirements and these are the maximum requirements of a sentence. These combine together, these 5 elements combine together to form different sentences. Sentence cannot be all the time of equal pattern. There cannot always be subject plus verb pattern. There cannot always be subject plus verb pattern. For example, you stand up. Here this is subject and this is verb. But sentences cannot be always of this structure. That means subject plus verb structure. There can be addition of something in these sentences. You stand up. For example, I will say, you stand up on the ground. Okay, on the ground. Now this on the ground is the addition, but we can also form the sentence without on the ground. You stand up. But we cannot form a sentence without stand up. Only you cannot be a sentence. Only subject cannot form a sentence or only verb cannot form a sentence. At least these two are required. Subject plus verb are required to form a sentence. So, you stand up is a minimum required quantity of sentence clause elements to form a sentence. There are 5 clause elements. There are 5 clause elements. S, V, O, C, A. Subject, verb, object, complement and adverbial. These are the 5 clause elements. That they are also called as sentence elements. Basically, they are called as clause elements. Here we have taken one example. The people of this country selected her prime minister last year. The people of this country selected, the people of this country, this is subject here. Selected is a verb, her is object, prime minister complement, and last year adverbial. As I told you earlier, there is the minimum requirement. There is the minimum requirement in a sentence, for a sentence to form it. Without subject plus verb, we cannot form a sentence. Here, S stands for subject, V stands for verb, O stands for object, C stands for complement, and A stands for adverbial. So there are these 5 sentence elements. These 5 sentence elements, 3, 4, 5. We form sentences in combination. We take subject and verb compulsorily. Without these two, without subject plus verb, there cannot be a sentence. But sentence can be without object, without complement, or without adverbial. But we cannot form a sentence without subject and verb. Subject and verb, these are the basic requirement to form a sentence. Subject and verb. What is stated here? While this is the minimum requirement to construct a sentence, the minimum requirement is subject and verb. While this is the maximum requirement to construct a sentence, all these 5 elements, the minimum requirement is subject plus verb. Okay, we have seen earlier a sentence. To form grammatical sentence, we require at a minimum a subject and a verb. The other elements are optional. Optional means we can, as per our requirement, we can include it or we can avoid it. It's not necessary that every time we include object, every time we include complement, every time we include adverbial in a sentence. A sentence can be with or without these 3 elements, but subject and verb, these are the essential to form a sentence. Okay. Now, in the next lecture, we will discuss these 5 clause elements in detail, one by one. So far, you study these things, again repeat it, so that you will be completely become aware of these things.